The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. So thrilled to be here with you live. We've been away from you guys a while, and oh, do we have stories to tell, and even better, we have video that we're going to be showing you in the coming weeks. They're really amazing time, but really thrilled and grateful to be here with you on this Wednesday morning. You know I love Wednesdays. We have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh here with us. She's going to be answering your questions live in just a few moments in a segment we call Ask Dr. Doreen. In our second hour today, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is also here. She's going to join me for a really wonderful hour. We have Ava Lund, who's going to be with us from Special Spirits. It's a wonderful equine ranch. And they did a tremendous camp this summer that I understand that they're going to be continuing with. Ava's going to be talking with us about that camp, and we'll hear more about the kinds of things that they were able to do with the kids over the summer and how the kids benefited from that. But we want to remind you that this entire show is meant to be interactive. We want to hear from you. We want to know your thoughts, your questions, your concerns. I know some of you wrote in this morning. There was something going on with our website. It's back up. So if you're watching this and you have concerns, you're watching on YouTube, our actual website, autism-live, is back running. We've taken care of that issue for you. But Kelby's going to remind you that there's more than one way to watch the show. Even if autism-live should occasionally falter, as all websites do, there's lots of different ways for you to be participating with us. We do love it when you go to autism-live.com, though, because there's a lot of things to do there. You can sign up for our email list so that you can get the monthly viewer guide and the weekly viewer guide. You can also, as I said, watch the live show there. In fact, you can watch the most recent 100 episodes of Autism Live from that site. But more importantly, I think the most fun part about that actual website is the live feature. It gives you an opportunity in real time to talk to us here on the show. You see there are a series of white boxes. If you'll put your cursor in the one that says your comment, start typing, hit enter, that's really all you have to do. There is no credit card needed. There is no username, no password. I love that about that. And you can be talking to me, but more importantly, you can be talking to our wonderful guests and experts. So I hope that you'll participate in that, because we have lots of guests and experts, none finer than Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. She's here with us, and it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh with us. I'm so excited because I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks.
Is it 2 weeks or 1 week?
I think it's been 2 weeks officially.
Oh yeah, that's right, because you guys were traveling or something.
Well, we did a live feed from a vigil. So it's been 3 weeks since we've done a show with you.
Right.
I missed that time.
Yes,
I need my Dr. Granpeesheh time.
It's lovely to be back. Thank you.
Thrilled to be here with you, and I always like to remind everybody that you are a true expert in the field of autism, having worked in this field for multiple decades, working with all kinds of individuals on the spectrum, young babies, toddlers, school age, up through adults, that you have a vast array of experience in this field. But I think as important, you are a visionary in this field. You see things as they're coming, because this is a changing field.
Yes, it is.
Of autism.
Quite a bit.
And the way in which we take care of our individuals who are on the spectrum, and the way in which we access funding to be able to do that. It's a constant shifting beach of sand. And you have been somebody over the years who has been a bright light, who stepped forward, seen things as they're coming, and made sure that the community was taken care of as these things shifted and changed.
Well, as much as I could. You made it sound much more impressive.
I'm not going to let you shortchange yourself on this, because I mean, in the time that I have been doing this show, insurance and funding for autism has changed drastically.
Oh yeah, totally.
Drastically. And I can remember being at a meeting where you were talking about this is where we need to get to, and going, what?
Yeah.
What is she talking about?
Yeah.
But that's exactly, you saw it coming before it happened.
Sure. And if you go back to like the 70s, when we were working with kids and just kind of starting to develop these programs, ABA, which used to be called behavior modification, it's changed so much. Like what we do has changed so much. Funding has changed so much. Understanding of autism, medical research, like we've really come a long way.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's amazing, and I'm thrilled that somebody is, we always say, well, thank goodness brighter minds are working on this. This is the brighter mind. I'm so grateful that your bright mind has been working on this on behalf of all of us.
Thank you very much.
I can't imagine anybody better to be doing that on our behalf.
Thank you.
But we do like to remind people at the start of the show that in this format, there is no way that even an expert of Dr. Granpeesheh's caliber could give individual specific advice.
Right.
So we do remind you at home, send your questions in, be as specific as possible, but know that Dr. Granpeesheh will be giving some very broad-based information to help you to make decisions about what you might want to ask your professionals next, because no one can give individual specific advice in this format.
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you, because we walk away with more knowledge after we talk to you, and I always say it here, knowledge is power.
Thank you so much.
And we like to be powerful, right?
Yes, and so you should be.
Yes, exactly. So want to get started with some questions. We had a lot of questions come in on Facebook.
Okay.
Want to get started with a question on Facebook. Hi there, my grandson is 8 years old and has autism. I'm his legal guardian, and I've been researching about the benefits of methyl B12. What is the highest dosage I can give him? And thank you so much for your time.
Right. First of all, anything that's a dosing situation, you should definitely be talking to your pediatrician. It's important for the pediatrician to have your child's history, as well as determine the dosing based on his weight and so on. So, and I don't know, I mean, there are families who have sworn to the benefits of methyl B12. And so I'm not sure of how much research supports it for autism type behaviors, but there's certainly a lot of research that supports health matters with methyl B12. So it is worth considering, and I would really recommend you talk to your pediatrician.
Absolutely. And you guys should know too, I didn't know this, that methyl B12 shots are not all created equally.
No, they're not. Right.
There are some different things that they will put into a shot if a child shows that they need that particular additive to it. I'm saying additive, but I think it's a lot of times people are doing pure methyl B12 3 times a week. And so that's one thing, but you can certainly have methyl B12 together with other B vitamins, B complex. Or you can also have IV types of treatments, which also then include glutathione and other things that are beneficial as well. So, yeah, it's really important. I mean, and a lot of pediatricians might not have adequate knowledge or information on this, or might not deem it appropriate for autism. So another very good resource, obviously, is the MAPS website, and physicians who are MAPS trained will very easily be able to tell you about this. If you are a CARD patient, our physician, Dr. Linda Copeland, is able to answer this question as well and talk to you more about it. Yeah, absolutely. But it is something that has to be prescribed.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And so, absolutely, I love the advice of making sure when it's dosage. I will say that Jem did methyl B12 shots for a while, and we got a big bang out of it. That for us, that's a very individual experience. And he recently asked to go back on it.
Oh, nice.
Which is interesting. That he experiences
he feels it,
talking is easier for him. Like
Maybe
I
I
could use a
should
methyl B12 shot today.
I was about to say, like, I noticed that as the older you get, you start to forget
Right.
words a lot.
Or you just trip over your words sometimes.
Yeah.
He'll have a little bit of difficulty sometimes, and he'll say, you know, I think I could use a shot. And he didn't love getting the shots.
No.
He was the one who asked to be taken off them because he didn't. You get them in the butt.
Yeah.
And they tell some parents to have your child be asleep, and we chose not to do that.
Right.
So, but anyway, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more Autism Live after these messages. Here, mid-swing on this wonderful day, this wonderful walk with Mr. Matt Asner. Talk to us about today's walk. Do we have any facts, figures, numbers, or just pure emotion?
Just pure emotion. I'm about to get the numbers. We'll see what it is.
Okay.
I think it's probably close to 1.6, probably. That's my feeling. But it's incredible. We had 55,000 people plus here today, and you know, I you know, honestly, I've been here 7 years. It gets better and better and better. So.
And really, what you've fostered here today is hope. I know that's your favorite four-letter word.
Where are we without hope?
Where are we?
Really, I mean, seriously, where are we without hope? Hope is everything. Hope is eternal.
This is a pretty big event. Every year, I love it. What does this event mean to you?
Well, I just think it's great that you see so many people coming out to support, autism.
So we're here with Max Burkholder. There's a whole community of people that are going to love you no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter what you do. And that's the autism community. Are you okay with this? Is this a good thing?
I'm pretty okay with it. This seems to be a pretty happy, supportive community.
Well, what did you learn about autism through portraying this wonderful character?
Sort of the individuality of it, you know, like with autism spectrum disorders, a tendency is to sort of generalize everybody with sort of the same degree of affliction as sort of exactly the same and very generalize them a lot. But something I found while just talking to everybody and that I tried to put into the characters, just the sense of individuality that all of them have, everybody has. And so at a certain point it became not really even portraying autism, it just sort of became portraying the character.
I want to thank you on behalf of everybody for what you do.
That's very sweet.
To bring awareness and to raise money. That's a tremendous, tremendous legacy. But as a dad, you've got other things that you're doing as well.
Yeah.
I want to know, as a family, if you have any advice, what's been something that's been helpful to you personally?
You know, get your autistic kids out in the community. I mean, my son's got a guide dog, so he goes to a lot of cool places. He surfs, he skis, does gymnastics. He's actually trying Hebrew school. I'm not quite sure if he knows what's happening there, but he does all kinds of cool things, and he has a lot of friends. Right now, most of his friends are the adults who take care of him, and over time, hopefully he'll have more friends who are his age, and you'll see him walking around, and people won't be nervous around him. The dog's been very helpful with that. It's like the dog is like the most infectious thing in the world. Like, everybody wants to be near the dog, and he sees that, and he gets some of that affection laid onto him. So as a family, you know, we're just there to support Tyler and make him happy.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, and she is answering your questions in real time. We had another question that came in via Facebook. Dr. Doreen, hi. Through my child's ABA curriculum, he's been out one time to a large chain store with success. The BCBA that I have come to trust with my child's safety shook me up in a meeting with the district. She said that my child has not eloped from school and that my relationship with him is likely the cause of the issue. However, there he's had eloping behaviors, running away from the staff inside, and has hid under furniture. I pointed out that every school has recorded elopement behaviors in the past 4 schools total. My trust is fairly damaged and I feel betrayed, angry, and confused. I'm afraid to speak up for fear of my own impulsiveness and being that this really is our only resource for him. I don't think she's unfit, but I'm wondering if she will convey the seriousness of his safety to the staff. She also said that 1 of 2 of her most experienced staff would be taking him on these outings. So I have mixed feelings and I don't know what to think, say, or do. I think this encompasses what a lot of us feel sometimes, that we will, put our trust and our hope into a provider, and then the provider says something inadvertently or deliberately that appears to go against what we thought we were all working towards, and it feels like a betrayal.
It is a betrayal, and I can tell you from the perspective of a provider, you really have to be in the field for the right reasons. Like, it's very, very easy to go the wrong way. I've been around for so long, I can tell you I've had numerous different funding sources, whether it be school districts or regional centers or insurance companies or so on, who have attempted to make deals with me which were contingent upon not recommending more than X amount of therapy for any child who comes in. If you don't recommend more than 15 hours a week of ABA for any child that we give you, we'll give you 1,400 kids right now.
Right.
Now think about the effect of that on a small provider who doesn't know what they're here for,
Right.
or who forgets their main reason for doing what we do,
Or who justifies it. I see
Or who
a
justifies
lot
it.
of justifying going
Yes.
around. They go, well, then we'll be able to help all those kids.
yes.
But will you really?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's easy for people to go the wrong path and take that because, hey, 1,400 kids, you can have multiple offices and so on and so forth. The other side of it is there's an inordinate amount of pressure on providers. Like, we have an entire department, as you know, of BCBAs, which are not cheap. It's expensive to have those BCBAs. And all they do not work with patients directly. All they do is fight funding agencies.
Right.
So their job is to make sure that all of our supervisors are writing reports in formats that are desirable by the various funding agencies. It's not like we can write one type of report and send it to a Medicaid case versus an insurance case versus a school district case. They're all completely different.
Yeah. It's not
and
like there's a template and you just
there isn't, and it's
fish them out.
right, and
Yeah.
it's a ton of work, but we do it in order to make sure that our parents get these funds.
Yeah.
And it's very easy. Like, you'll, even me, and I not too many people can win if they fight me on a case.
Right.
And I've been very fortunate in that some of the cases that I'm personally involved with, usually I don't get a lot of backlash, but you have cases where I had a case recently that we actually took all the way to court.
Yeah.
And an insurance company was refusing to fund the child adequately. And it's the same kind of argument we've had in the past, which is if the child's very seriously affected by autism, then the funding agency will say something like, he's too severe and ABA won't benefit him. And if the child is progressing really rapidly and reaches a point where they're really doing well, but not finished, but doing well, then the insurance company or other funding source, schools too, will say, oh, he doesn't need ABA. So it's very interesting how you have to balance and be right in the middle and say, no, he does need ABA. And then once you have managed to convince the sources that be that the need for ABA is there, then it's a matter of literally haggling over these hours.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, as I said, I have 2 full-time BCBAs and a bunch of other people who are really involved in just doing that. And it's all about going back and forth and proving why intensity matters. So I understand this parent. I understand how you can feel betrayed, because it's a very confusing world when you enter. And there's a later question that I want to make sure we definitely address, because it's a brand new parent.
Yeah.
And it's a scary world when you enter this field, and then you find someone who's a BCBA and you trust them. Now, and I don't want to discredit, or say anything negative at all about the BCBA credential. It is a good credential, and it is important for people to have that credential, and it gives you a level of expertise in the field of ABA. But it does, unfortunately, in my opinion, individuals who become BCBAs don't receive enough training in how to be a professional clinician and the patient responsibilities, privileges, and so on. And often privilege refers to the fact that you really do what's best for your clients at all times, and that includes confidentiality and all these other things. So it's very, very important, I think, that parents stay informed, and when you feel this way, when you feel like, who should I trust? I mean, I hate to say it, and I know we all want someone that you can trust, but I would recommend that you build a team of people so that everyone has open conversation. Now, in your particular case, I'm not sure I understand it. From what I can tell, your child has had elopement behaviors. This BCBA is now saying that your child has not eloped from this current school, and that somehow your belief that he has elopement has to do with your relationship with him or something like that it's all made up. I'm not sure.
Well, how I read it is that she's saying that the behavior is happening at home, and that it's because of the relationship, because it's not happening at the school.
I see. So, I would suggest 2 things here. One is that obviously you want to make sure that, great, you look at it in a positive way, right? And you say, okay, realistically, if it is only happening at school and it's not happening at home, then, or the other way around, it is only happening at home and not happening at school. First of all, it's a good thing, right? It's not happening at school. Great. Right. That's the positive. And if that's the case, wonderful. So let's now not be kind of defensive or upset or insulted, and let's look and see, is it happening at home? And if it is happening at home, why exactly is it happening? Let's forget about the fact that she sort of said it has something to do with your relationship, and let's realistically and objectively evaluate, why is it happening at home? Now, your BCBA probably has some form of explanation. Perhaps you or maybe your spouse or someone who's not personally kind of insulted by this or betrayed, someone who's can be a little bit more objective right now, should probably sit down with you and the BCBA and figure out what does she see, or what is she exactly saying when she says your relationship? Is there any truth to it? Is there anything that can be learned from this situation? Because if there is something to be learned, then let's learn it. I mean, realistically. And if not, if your BCBA is just kind of blaming you, which does happen quite often, then I think that type of thing usually happens when the person doesn't know what to do. Like, they have to find some reason to blame, and then they blame. Now, if they think it has something to do with your relationship, then hopefully they have some guidelines and guidance on how to change the relationship. If you believe in those guidances or those pieces of advice, if you think they go with how you feel about life and you want to try them out, I would try them out and see if it works. If you don't believe in those, then it's time for you to change. I mean, ultimately, you are the parent, and you have to find a BCBA that you can work with, or a licensed professional that you can work with, and that you feel you can trust. Having said that, you also want to always be open to change. Sometimes we don't see things about how we treat our kids. And sometimes we are blind to them because we become very protective of our kids, and obviously we don't want to hear something negative about something we've done. So essentially what I'm saying is, on the one hand, try to be as objective as you can. Don't be insulted. Try to learn from this. On the other hand, if ultimately you realize that the BCBA is not on your side and that can't be trusted, then you need to find someone else. The relationship is important, that you have a trusting, teamwork type relationship with your provider.
So I'm going to weigh in as the paranoid mom.
Yes.
And then you can watch Dr. Granpeesheh deal with me, because, you know, I'm like the paranoid mom.
Great.
And you know this about me. Because what I worry about with this is that the mom says the elopement behavior, the actual eloping isn't happening at school, but what I read is that you're afraid that it will, because there have been little things that have happened, like he's hid behind furniture.
Right.
And that he ran away from the staff while they were inside.
Right.
So the paranoid mom in me says, what happens if they go on an outing? Doesn't sound like these people really know what, and that they're not alarmed. And that the BCBA is saying, well, we're not seeing this behavior, so there's no need to be alarmed. Nobody's ringing a bell. And that's what I'm seeing as a mom. And I will be honest with you all, and you can all judge me because I'm okay with it. You know, I'm going to get a pillow made that says other people's opinions of my parenting is none of my business, right? Because I just go, well, that's how I am, and everything, you know, and that's how.
Sure, absolutely.
But there was and you know, my son, who's luscious and wonderful and fabulous, and I need to let go of the and let me just tell you, we have Temple granted things. Kelby can tell you, Temple lectured me for a half an hour the other day about how I need to let go and let the apron strings go further.
Yeah, did we not have this conversation about a month ago when school started?
Yes, we did, and this is why I'm saying you can learn from. Yeah. I'm willing to be the petri dish. But there was a school trip that was happening last spring.
Right.
And I did not feel comfortable with the staff going with him. And I said, I'm going. And they said, no. And I said, yes. And I insisted upon going. And they were not happy with me. But I didn't feel like, I feel like that they look at Jem and see no problems ever. And I don't think they would know what to do if there was a problem. And going on an outing, we've seen too many things, especially here in Los Angeles. I wasn't willing to risk it.
Sure.
Was that the best thing for him?
Well,
Probably
how did it turn
not.
out?
He was great.
Yeah.
But can I'm afraid to say, because I don't want lawyers calling, but we went on the trip. We went to the Getty Villa.
Yeah, great.
Beautiful.
Oh,
We've
the
been
villa,
there before.
okay.
The Villa. And they had said they didn't want me to ride on the bus with him. I said, all right, I'll do that. I'll let him ride on the bus. But they had him ride on the bus that was shorter, that had fewer kids. There were neurotypical kids and kids with autism on it. There were aides on the bus for other kids, not for him, but he was going to sit with a buddy that he has who's on the spectrum. And they showed up. I was there at the Villa. We had a great time at the Villa. But one of the other kids had an issue. Had a meltdown, and the bus left without my son.
What do you mean?
The bus left without my son.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
But how did that happen? Like, they just forgot him?
Like, we're all a little liquid on what happened. The story was that nobody told us, but that they made a decision for him to ride on the other bus. But the bus was gone. And they were loading all the other kids on the bus. Nobody said anything to us. And I said, whoa, 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 where is the bus for my son? And they went, he's going on this bus. Nobody talked to me. Believe me, I was in people's offices going,
yeah.
Clearly there was a reason why I needed to go, because you don't have, it kind of feeds into that paranoia.
Sure.
So would that have happened if I hadn't been there? And what would have happened? I don't know.
Well, let me ask you, do you think that Jem would have asked someone?
Yeah, and I think there were enough other moms there.
Right.
It probably would have been okay. I don't think they would have left him at the Villa.
Right. I mean,
he would have gotten on the bus.
Right.
Right? But we just had a kid who didn't get off of a bus.
Absolutely, and I completely understand that, but that kid is not your kid.
Exactly.
And that kid, that individual was quite different from the skill set.
Absolutely.
So it's a very different thing when it comes to children. Like, you really have to see. I also would feel like someone who was like Paul, for instance, who was left on the bus. I would you know, with kids that are not able to communicate, it's a completely different situation. You really need to be aware of everything for them.
Yeah.
When there's a child who can communicate, then I guess, you know, we get to a point, and it's not a risk really, because there's someone in charge at all times, but it is scary for sure, because you have to jump from being their full-time protector to letting them go out on their own. And let them make their own mistakes, which I don't know if he yet has, but that's another thing that you'll experience. So, but what I'm saying is, and we all to some extent go through that. You know, I spend hours talking to my teenagers about things that's going on in their lives just in order to help them not make those mistakes, you know. So, but the issue, I guess, is, and you are absolutely right, Shannon, in that it does reinforce you in terms of thinking, I can't trust anyone. I need to be there for my child. So perhaps, you know, and I think the only thing that would help you feel you can trust him to be on his own, I suppose, is to actually allow him to have that success. Right? Because nothing else is really going to seem right. So maybe we need to do is we need to shape, like maybe we can't jump off a cliff and say either you're there or no one's there.
Right.
And there has to be steps in between. And those steps could be, you don't go, but someone who's a representative of yours goes. So a friend or a cousin or someone who's going to be careful and watching for him, but not as much as a mom would.
Right.
And then maybe you find a setting which, and this is just what we do in school. Like another thing you could have done is you could have had a friend who, or one of us, someone who Jem doesn't really know,
I consider
go, but not be with Jem. Just watch him from afar.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things you can do, is you can go and just observe and be protective from the side. And I think if this parent, the same thing is true. If you're worried about going to a large chain store and you don't trust the people that are going to be with him, why don't you have someone check it out? I mean, you know, we have a lot of our therapists out in the environment. It's one of the most important things. And we don't always we don't necessarily always have the therapist right on the child. We want our children to establish a little bit of a larger safety net around themselves. So you can use other people. I think it's kind of like going from you to someone the child knows to someone the child doesn't know. To then whoever is in his teachers, aides, and so on and so forth. And that gives you a sense of safety. And then, you know, your child is eventually going into the mainstream.
And so coming back to this mom, who's feeling concerned about that maybe they're not as alarmed as they should be, how can she move forward so that she's comfortable?
Exact same thing. Like I would say, you need to let your child go on these outings. This is really important. And if you don't trust these people to be able to take care of your child, then find a family member, a cousin, a nephew, a niece, or someone who can go to the location at the time, but kind of stay a little remote, so that they're not like around your child, and nobody even needs to know. You just need to have someone in the background keeping an eye on your child, so that nothing goes wrong, but you let these people do their thing. I often like to do that anyway. I mean, you know, and I don't know about you and you, Shannon, but I have cameras all over my house. And mostly they're on the exits, but I do have cameras inside the house, and I've kept them since the time that my kids were young, and I had babysitters and nannies and so on. And I like once in a while being able to just check in on the house and see what's going on. And I think this is similar to that, you know, and these days with all the technology that exists, I mean, my daughter the other day was saying, I wish I could just share with you the conversations that we have during lunch, right? And I was like, you can easily. I can give you a camera.
It's called an iPhone.
You can, not only that, that's true. You can just record it on your phone, or I could put a recorder in your backpack or whatever it is. Or, I mean, you know, there's little pens that are recorders now if you want to do that. So there's all kinds of ways of being there. And that's another thing. Like you can attach a camera to your child's backpack, or put a GoPro on him, or whatever, you know.
Thank you for not just saying get over it.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, you're a parent, I'm a parent.
But I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That, you know, what I hear and what I appreciate, and how I grow, and I have grown through, my child's at junior high.
Yeah.
And, the way I make progress, because you don't just say to me, get over it. You say, you address my fears.
Absolutely.
And you give me power so that I make sure that he's safe without holding him back, which is
wonderful. It's
wonderful.
not like, I don't think any parent wants to have this fear.
Right.
Nobody wants this fear.
Yeah.
Everybody wants not to have this fear.
Right.
So the fact that you have this fear, it's prior experience and it's knowing your child. And so it's valid. There's no saying get over it. You only get over it when you actually see the child as capable.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that really is to shape that. So gradually step out. You don't have to suddenly step out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're so wonderful.
Sure.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back. We got a lot more to cover, so stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing, and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is here with us. She's answering your questions. We had a question that came in. Somebody said, can you please comment on people who now think our kids are violent because of recent shootings? Over the weekend, there was a lot of controversy, a page that popped up on Facebook that was Families Against Autistic Shooters. A lot of you wrote in and talked to us about it. Fortunately, it took several days, but Facebook has taken that page down. But I think it's left all of us worldly weary. It's terrible when these shootings happen. I don't think anybody can dispute that, but I feel like it's another level for our community when then all of a sudden there's a barrage of media speculating about a diagnosis no one knows for sure, and then a lot of the presumptions that happen after that. It leaves us all very afraid of our kids being further discriminated against. a lot of people have been speaking out on it, and we wondered if you had anything that you wanted to add to the mix.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because violent crimes of this nature, you know, this is the latest trend now where people are saying that so-and-so had autism or Asperger's or something like that, which is kind of interesting because to some extent, it reminds me, didn't the parent of the shooter up in Santa Barbara last year say the same thing, I think? And I think to some extent, and I don't know, I have never met those individuals or diagnosed them. They very well could or could not have it, I don't know. But to some extent, it takes away the blame from the shooter in some ways and says, oh, he had mental disability. But what's interesting is that, and this is a very important fact in the United States, that only 5% of these violent shootings are committed by people with mental disability. Only 5%. People have the belief that the majority of these crimes are committed, but that's not true at all. In fact, most of the victims are individuals with mental disability. In many cases, victims of any kind of violence the majority are individuals with mental disability, but not the perpetrators. The perpetrators are often not individuals with any kind of mental disability. So, you know, that's why there's a system in place to identify whether or not someone has a mental disability once they've committed a crime, because it is something that people try to do in order to get away with it. So I would say, my feeling is this whole thing is ridiculous, that we're saying, oh, these people who commit these crimes have autism. There has never, not even once, been proof of any of these cases actually having been diagnosed. I'm not aware of any. And you know, honestly, even if it is 5%, then it becomes more important to pay attention to the fact that individuals with mental disability, whether they're autistic or have other mental disorders, you know, whatever it might be, mania, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, or even schizophrenia, psychosis, anything, they need help, you know, and that's the bigger issue, I think, and that in this, we really have. And they talk about gun control and that it's not really an issue with guns, but it's more an issue with mental disorders and mental disabilities. And that the truth is that with those violent shootings that have to do with guns, only 5% are mentally disabled individuals. It really is a matter of controlling guns in this country a little bit better, and also helping individuals who have mental disabilities. So that's where our focus has to be. There's nothing positive that can come from any group blaming violence on any form of mental disorder or disability. Nothing positive can come from that at all, in any way. The only thing that will happen is that these individuals will be stigmatized, and we will go back 10 years, 20 years in what we've learned and in the advances we've made, because people will feel like they need to stay away from individuals with disabilities, and people will feel they need to like isolate, and that's just garbage, and it's stuff that used to happen in the 50s, and we're way ahead of that, so let's not step back.
Yeah, and it's incumbent upon all of us who know better,
that's right,
to use our ability to converse, and to, when you hear somebody saying something, say those statistics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let people know.
Yeah.
You know, that's what people have been,
it's not true.
You know, spreading this rumor, but here are the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way we can all be a part of keeping things going in the right direction.
Right.
We're going to take another break, and then we're going to come back and talk about a parent with a child who's newly diagnosed. Stick with us. There's been another new study about optimal outcomes, and I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on recovery? Do you think it's possible? Do you believe in recovery from autism?
On recovery, you learn how to adapt. I mean, I've had a lot of experimental brain scans done, and I have found things that are definitely abnormal. I have an enlarged left ventricle that's definitely abnormal. That's not going to go away. That scan was done less than 5 years ago. But you work with someone and they adapt. You're not going to make me an algebra specialist. That's just not going to happen. But things like getting better at public speaking, that is something that I gradually learned. What I'm seeing today, especially with some of the kids on the mild end of the spectrum, I'm seeing teenagers that are much milder than me that haven't learned things like how to go up to the counter at McDonald's and order food all by themselves, how to go on the bus, how to shop, how to go in the store and shop, how to do a checkbook, basic things like that. Because what drives me crazy is when I go back to the cattle world and I see a guy in the maintenance shop that's running the whole maintenance shop at a big plant, and he's as Asperger's as he can be, and he's running the whole maintenance shop. And then I see Junior that's addicted to video games, and you can't get his duff off his chair and get him doing things. Now, when I was in high school, I did a lot of thinking about this. I got kicked out of a large girls' school for throwing a book, and I went to a special boarding school up on a farm, and I was allowed to work with the farm animals. And they let me goof off and not study. But I got to thinking, there's one thing they did not let me do. I goofed off and I didn't study, but I had to physically go to class. When I didn't want to go to the Friday night movie, they made me the projectionist. One thing they were not going to let me do is sit in my room, become a recluse in my room. They were not going to allow that.
I want to know why you threw the book. Why did you throw it?
Oh, I threw a book at a girl because she called me a retard.
Oh, good reason.
Oh, no,
to throw
she
it at.
teased me. And I had some problems getting in fights when kids teased me. But it was always brought about by someone picking on me. And the principal had me kicked out of school, out of a large girls' school for doing that.
And what'd your mom say?
Well, she was not very happy about the whole thing because when the principal called, I answered the phone and he said I was incorrigible and I was kicked out of school. Mother was really angry that he just said that right directly to me, which was definitely not very appropriate.
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to just
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism.
Autism is a neurological disorder that it's many different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, and I was just telling her about our lunch with Temple, and we'll be telling you more about that. Aren't they fun? These are our cows that were signed by Temple Grandin, and we had 6 of them. We gave 1 to Temple. She loved them, and I said, "Would you like one?" And she was like, so she took a black and white one. We had the opportunity. We're going to be showing you pictures tomorrow, but Jem and I were invited to NASA on Thursday of last week, and Dr. Dorothea Lerman has been a guest on the show, and her husband, we did not know this before, is the flight director for the International Space Station.
Wow.
Like, big deal. So we went to NASA, and that was wonderful. And so we gave 1 of the cows to Dr. Lerman and to her fabulous husband for taking us on an amazing tour of NASA. We got to sit in the control room at the desk of the original command center.
Wow.
You know, Houston, we have a problem. I have pictures. We'll show you. It was
That's awesome.
Beyond cool.
Are you going to tell the viewers and listeners about your drive with Temple as
yes. We very soon, Kelby's started editing, and we took a drive with Temple You know how Jerry Seinfeld takes comedians in cars to get coffee? Well, we took her to the airport and we videotaped and had a lovely conversation. Not the usual Temple that you get to see. It was hilarious. We had so much fun. Wait till you hear some of the things that she said, especially when we talked to her about what she loves on TV. This was mind-blowing to me.
Really?
It was very exciting. I'm not giving anything away, but I just have had a stupid grin on my face for a week about it. It was really,
that's awesome.
Really fun.
I can't wait to hear it.
And she gave us a hug when we got there.
That's wonderful.
It was a lovely thing. Anyway, we had a question come in from a parent saying, my 2-year-old was just diagnosed. How do I begin? Is there hope?
Right. And, I wanted to make sure that we have time for this question because that is probably one of the most important things to me, is helping parents who have just entered our world. And I know it's the same for you. We all are very, very passionate about this issue because you can so easily be misguided at this point and so easily be overtaken by fear of the future. Yes, there is hope. Like, let's just start with that. There's a lot of hope. And you should try very hard to not be afraid at this point. If you have anyone in your life that is saying anything negative, you need to get them out of your life for this time. Because you don't want to be hearing that. You have absolutely probably enough people already. Very common that a diagnosing doctor might say something like, this is a lifelong disability or something like that. It's funny because today I was just looking at the autism news that's out there, and I think there's an article, and it was on NBC and CBS, both talked about it, where they're talking about 2 children who had been interviewed at the age of 3 or 4, and that would have been like 2001 or something. So they're now much older, and might have been even earlier, because one of them is a grown adult in college, and the other has not done very well. And so, that sort of shows you, I guess, in just a comparison of 2 people, but in real life, we already know that about half of the individuals who are diagnosed with autism do have close to normal, if not normal lives, or that what is normal, the same as all of us, right, essentially. And the other half show significant improvement. And so there are very, 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 very few cases in all of my life that I have met where the improvements were very minimal. The younger you are, obviously, so your child's only 2, the higher your chances are of doing extremely well. What is probably the most important thing you can do right now is have a very open mind, spend a lot of time researching what is appropriate for your child. I would love to see your child and help you, because I feel like I've done 30 somewhat years of research on what's appropriate and what's not, and you can get misguided, and it's just a waste of time if you do, and you don't want to waste time. That's important. So obviously, and the world can see it, and that's why it's approved and funded, is the first thing is ABA. You want to get ABA in place. Your child is 2, that's a fantastic age to start ABA, and you want to start what's called a comprehensive or an intensive program. It's actually referred to as Early Intensive Behavioral Intervention, EIBI. And so with a 2-year-old, you'll generally be starting around 15 hours a week, and you will gradually add, so that by 2.5, you're at 30 hours. Let's say by 3, you're at 40 hours. You're doing 40 hours is what's considered comprehensive per week. And yes, you heard me right, 40 hours. So it's a very intensive program. It requires a team of therapists to work with your child. Now, at the same time, you will be doing a series of assessments, which is very, very important. You want to assess psychologically, so you'll want to know what your child's speech areas of deficit are. You'll do developmental tests. You'll do tests of IQ, mostly not because you care about what that IQ number is, but more because you want to see things like, what's your child's processing speed? How does their memory work? Are they able to attend to the right things? And that information is very, very important and can be explained by a good psychologist. You'll also want to do developmental testing. Obviously, my favorite is Skills, which gives you a very good developmental profile, which is online, and you can get going on that today.
Yeah.
You know, you can sign up and do the assessments. It'll take a while to answer all the questions, but it'll help you.
Skillsforautism.com.
Exactly. And then you'll also want to do some medical testing, which will just look at any other issues that your child might have. Food sensitivities in particular become kind of important, and you want to be able to make sure that your child is on a highly nutritious diet that is not toxic. So, and that'll mean different things to different children. So you'll want to make sure your child's benefiting from their nutrition. So if your child's getting sick medically, health-wise, then you need to deal with that, because that's really important. Essentially, I want all of my kids to be healthy, and sleeping well, so that they can, and eating the right food, so that they can learn at their best capacity. And the ABA is where the learning comes. Obviously, some children also have issues with apraxia, and speech therapy in those cases help. Some children have issues of a motor or sensory nature, and occupational therapy might help with that as well. And so those are the main things, I think, that you do. And you focus for the next 3 or 4 years on catching your child up, and that's how you look at it. Yeah. And you remember that any challenging behavior, like tantrum, aggression, or anything like that, is just a form of communication. Your child gets frustrated, they don't know how to speak, so they hit or scream or so on. It is not a side effect of autism, it's a side effect of not being able to communicate.
Yeah.
So the more you teach communication, the child's behaviors subside. And so don't be scared, there's a lot of hope. The sooner you dig into it and get started, the better. And a good organization will give you that support.
Absolutely. And the only thing that I would add is that make sure wherever you are that you have both local and global support for you as a parent to have other parents to talk to.
Absolutely.
So that you will, like on those days when it's hard, somebody else will hold your hand and go, yep, been there, done that. You will survive this. We all have. It will get better. You will be okay.
It's amazing.
And to remind you of the important stuff along the way, because you have to keep the rest of your life moving and keep the roof over your head and all that stuff.
And all your other kids and
right.
your spouse.
I mean, a little, we try to take on our piece of that to help you here at Autism Live and give you a resource for people that you can ask questions. But, it's important. I always say get a local and get a global support group so that you can be talking to other people. But I always, whenever we go someplace, people say, we love it, Shannon, when you say, we'll all hold hands together, we'll all get through this together.
It's so true.
And I always say, si se puede, we can do this.
Yeah.
So we're here for you, and you will get through this, you will survive.
Absolutely. And just find the people that you trust and build your team.
Yep.
And then you'll get through this. And,
absolutely.
And the other important thing, as Shannon was speaking, was try to work on getting your funding in place fast.
Oh, yes,
because,
fast as you can.
And you can get funding through your insurance most places, and if not, write into us and we'll guide you more. But once you have the funding in place, it becomes a lot easier, because then you don't have to worry about that.
Right, and that's a big part of it. And it's available to more people than it ever has been before. So,
and I don't know where you are, but Love My Provider is a good source for finding everything from schools, speech therapists, ABA providers, and so on. lovemyprovider.com. You should probably check that out to help you find the provider. And also, CARD is in a lot of different locations, so reach out to us as well.
Absolutely. We're out of time, unfortunately, but I thank you so much for being here. I thank all of you for being here. We're going to take a break and look at the A word when we come back. It's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Our special guest today, is Ava Lund from Special Spirit, an equine ranch that did a really fantastic camp this summer in conjunction with CARD, and we're going to be talking about that, put a button in that, and talk about how it's going to be ongoing. So stick with us. First, here is the A word.
Jack Riley.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast. I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
So Jack Riley, how old are you?
6.
Are you in first grade?
No, it's going to be first grade though.
So what are you in now?
I'm going 0th grade.
You're what do you call 0th grade?
Kindergarten.
The A word.
I think that word was far worse than we ever expected.
Yeah, I remember I kicked the garbage can when we were outside. My foot hurt. I remember that. And, that wasn't a very good day.
Say
Yeah, there we go. Good job.
green or orange?
What is it? Let's race.
What's your dad's name?
Like.
It's,
I
guess it's a pretty good example of what it could look like. I mean, there's struggles for all kids, but the fact that they were, Cheryl and Mike were so great, you know, taking in our parent training and utilizing the tools that we gave them and being on board with us and being consistent. I feel like consistency is so important because sometimes I know when parents come home, it's just easier for them to just give the child whatever it is that they need because they've had therapy all day. But consistency, I feel, is so important. And that's, you know, how you get over, you know, their behaviors, their difficulties, and yeah. So yeah, consistency is key, and it's obviously worked for them.
Like that, okay? Ready? You can do it. 1, 2, 3. Yay!
Good job!
Good job!
Good job, Jack.
We adore him, so whether you do the right thing because of that, you're doing something because of it.
I think I saw
Coincidentally, some of it's right.
When we first, you know, you hear autism, and of course I did all the online research to scare you to pieces, and you know, one of the things that probably hit me the hardest was that he's not supposed to be a kid who likes affection. He's not supposed to be a kid who's going to put out affection, and of course that's not true, but you know, what did we know at the time? So I think then, and it's in both of our nature that we thought we could love it out of him, which is probably one of the best things that we ever did.
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm going to marry somebody.
Yeah.
Eloise.
Eloise? You've got a lot of contenders, though, for who you might
Yes,
marry.
I do.
Who else might you marry?
She's the only one I'm going to marry.
Oh, yeah?
I hope.
And as I said many years ago, I want him to date. I think that forms you. It informs everything in your life. You know, getting your heart broken, breaking a heart, confidence, insecurity, everything's informed by dating. And I really want him to do that. And to me, that's a typical behavior.
Just that, I don't know, I mean, he's just such a cool kid. It's just, we are amazed every day at some of the stuff that he says and does, and feel very, I guess, honored, privileged to be his parents.
Well, what if Mommy asks you to eat broccoli? What will you do?
I would eat it, but I don't like it.
Okay.
It just tastes like, because I don't like eating trees, and that looks like a tree.
That's true. You don't like eating trees?
It looks like a small tree, like this big a tree.
Yeah.
That's one thing that autism has done for us. If I just don't know that if you don't go through this, that you, I mean, I was never someone who lived in the present very well. I tend to look to the future a lot, always planning what's next, and boy, he helps me to live in the present
because you just have to. You have to appreciate every little thing.
A part of me wants him to forget that he ever even had therapy, just to grow up and make memories, make friends, and yeah, be successful in life.
Perfect. Now pull the other bunny in. You did it. Design is escape.
It's not a death sentence. A lot of joy and growth, and when you find the fun, it's probably bigger than it ever would have been with a typical kid because you work so hard for it. And that's about it, I think.
Can you take this off?
Makeup.
Temperamental star.
Nailed it.
Hi everyone! Thanksgiving is fast approaching, and we thought it'd be really fun to teach you a gluten-free stuffing recipe with help from Breads from Anna. Now this is a 2-day recipe, and so day 1 we're going to make this bread. Here's what you're going to need. 1 package of Breads from Anna bread mix, 1 packet of active dry yeast, 3 eggs, 1 tablespoon apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons sugar, 1/4 cup of oil, 1/2 cup of warm water, 1 teaspoon ground sage, thyme, rosemary, 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, and then a pinch of tarragon, onion powder, marjoram, and garlic powder. On day 2, when we put the stuffing together, here's what you'll be needing. 6 tablespoons of butter, 1/2 bulb of fennel, 1 chopped onion, 2 chopped carrots, 1/2 cup of gluten-free chicken broth, 1 teaspoon of ground sage, thyme, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt and pepper. All right, step 1, we're gonna dissolve our sugar into our water. And then we're gonna go ahead and add our active yeast. We're gonna dissolve all these together. So we're gonna just set this aside. Now we're gonna take our bread mix right on over to our mixer. So first things first, we're gonna put all our liquids together before we add in our dry bread mix. We're putting in 3 eggs, our oil, apple cider vinegar, water, and our water, yeast, sugar mixture. We're gonna blend these all together. So once our liquids are all mixed together, we're gonna go ahead and add our bread mix. We're also going to add all of our spices now. Okay, now that our bread's been mixed, we're going to spoon this into a bread dish and we're going to let it rise for about an hour. Okay, so now that we've let this rise for about an hour, we're going to bake it at 375 for another hour. All right, it's been an hour, so let's grab our bread out of the oven. We're gonna let this cool for a little bit, and then we're gonna actually cube the bread, and we're gonna toast it in the oven just a little bit longer to dry it out so that when we add it to the vegetables, it'll make a really great stuffing. So as you can see, we've toasted our little breads here in the oven, and now what we're gonna do is saute some of these vegetables so that we can mix it in with the bread and make our final stuffing combination. So we'll start with the butter. So we're going to start with our onions so that we can make sure these are good and cooked before we add the other vegetables. They cook a little bit longer. Okay, those are looking pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and add our fennel, our carrots, our garlic, and then all our spices. So you're going to want to cook this until the carrots especially are nice and soft. Our vegetables are pretty soft here, so what we're going to do is go ahead and mix this with our bread. We're also going to go ahead now and add our 1/2 cup of broth. So once these are mixed together, we're going to go ahead and pour it into our greased baking dish, and we're going to bake it an additional 20 minutes at 350 degrees. think it's ready. Da-da-da. All right, and we can add a little garnish here. Perfect, and it's ready for Thanksgiving dinner. To learn how you can win some breads from Anna, go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/autism-live. Until next time, happy holidays.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
And you were out last week
Yes.
doing all kinds of great things.
Yes, and I'm trying
and you're
not to
sick
cough.
now.
I'm going to let you talk more.
Traveling, yeah.
Yes, lots to talk about, but not at this moment.
Okay, so I'll fill everybody in. You were on the road. You were at an autism conference while you try to get your lungs back in shape here. And should we take a break?
Yes.
Let's take a break so you can get your voice.
So we're going to do down dog next. So with down dog, there are several different ways that you can do it, and I want to show you first and then help you with yours so that we can work on what feels good for you, okay? All right, because there's no right way to do it. It's more about what your body likes, right? So for me, what I'm going to do is start off with my hands at the top of my mat, my headlights. My fingers are aiming towards the top of my mat, and then I'm going to tuck my toes, and then my head is also going to drop, and I'm going to look between my toes. Okay, and my body should be, or hopefully, like an A shape.
Or V.
Or V, yes.
Upside down V.
Yep. And so if your quads are tight or your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend your knees a little bit.
Send it to you.
Or if your shoulders are a little strained or a little tight, remember to push in through your feet, but also sometimes what feels really good is going down your forearms, like this. You can actually start out this way instead, it's a little easier. So your forearms rest on the floor, you still tuck your toes, and then you're still looking between your toes, but rather than being on your hands then, your weight's along your hands and your forearms. Okay? All right. So, now it's your turn. Okay. So, yep. You're going to do on your hands? Okay, yep. So your fingers are facing the front of the mat. Are you doing forearms? Forearms? Okay, there we go. Wow, you're very bendy. Very nice. And your gaze is right here between your toes. Excellent. Very nice, Jem. Wow. Awesome. Feet are a nice distance apart. How does that feel?
Okay.
Awesome. You want to come down? Excellent. Good.
Okay. All right, we're back.
Take two.
Take two. Shannon's coughing attack is under control. And as I was saying, at the moment, if it happens again, we're going to let you go and I'll just I'll wax on. But you've been on the road. You went to a very exciting autism conference.
Yeah, we were in Texas, and we went to the Future Horizons Autism Super Conference.
Right.
Amazing speakers. We had an opportunity to sit down with the 4 biggest speakers that they had at the event, which was Alexis Weinman. She is the amazing Miss America pageant contestant. She was Miss Montana. 2 years ago in the Miss America pageant, she was voted America's Choice by America. And I was just saying to you, I was so impressed with her. I can't wait for you to meet her at some point. You will love her. I could have just I adopted her.
Yeah.
She was just so funny and witty and adorable and well-spoken.
And she is on the autism spectrum, obviously.
Yeah, diagnosed with PDD-NOS as a child, and had a lot of issues as a teenager, and decided to become a contestant for Miss Montana 2 weeks before the pageant, and did it for the scholarship money.
Okay.
Won it, and truly is an inspiration to girls all over the country. She's just delightful and down to earth. Oh, this girl is down to earth. She was never a makeup girl.
Right.
She's just lovely. So we interviewed her. We got an opportunity to meet in person Dr. Jed Baker, who we've had on the show before. He is the author of that book that we've all been talking about, Overcoming Anxiety in Children and Teens. Amazing, amazing doctor. Loved meeting with him. Kara Kaczynski, who's been a regular on the show, she's the Pocket OT. We got an opportunity to meet her for the first time in person.
Okay.
She's delightful. And then, of course, Temple Grandin.
Yes, hence the cows.
Hence the cows. We have
signed by Temple.
We have these fabulous 4 cows signed by Temple. We're giving one of them to Autism Care and Treatment Today to auction at Denim and Diamonds, and then the other 3 we're going to be giving to viewers. So stay tuned on our Facebook page to find out how you could potentially win a signed Temple Grandin cow.
That's great.
And we had such a good time with Temple. You know, we had an opportunity to sit down and interview her, as we've done many times before, but we had asked for a little bit more time this time with Temple, because you guys write in all the time and ask about, who's the woman. We want to know the person, Temple Grandin, not necessarily the speaker. And so we had a wonderful time. We got to have lunch with Temple. Temple took me to task as a parent, gave me all kinds of parenting advice, and took me to task
on what?
About my apron strings. This is no shock to anybody.
Okay.
About how tight my apron strings are tied, and got me to loosen them a little bit right there at lunch.
Okay.
And then we had an opportunity to go for a drive with Temple, all of which we recorded, a la Jerry Seinfeld in cars getting comedians coffee, something like that.
Yeah.
So all of that's going to be coming to you guys in the coming weeks, but it was amazing.
Okay.
It was
great.
eye-opening.
Can't wait to see it.
And then, as I was saying with Dr. Granpeesheh, on Thursday, Jem and I were invited to go to NASA in Houston and to get a very specific guided tour by the one of the people who is flight director for the International Space Station. So we've got pictures I'm going to show you guys tomorrow. But it was amazing. But we were gone for a really long time, and I came back sick. So what can you do?
Well, we missed you around the halls here.
Well, I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. We're here, and you had a lot of stuff going on this last week. You've got a lot of really exciting in the news for us this week.
Yeah. Interesting that you were talking about Alexis. Is it?
Yes, Alexis Wyman.
Because one of the articles that came to our attention is that there is a study, and I believe we've covered a study like this before. But this was in the Open Access Journal, Autism Research and Treatment, and it found that the stress is higher for parents of girls with autism than it is for boys with autism. That while stress in general, parents experience higher levels of stress, obviously, in comparison to parents of neurotypical children. They are susceptible to negative health and social outcomes. The parents themselves, they're more likely to experience depression, anxiety, sleeping complaints, isolation, and burnout, which I'm sure many of our viewers are familiar with as parents of children with autism. But they do say that with girls, the research has found that it is much higher for parents of girls.
Yeah.
And it says this is especially important for parents of girls with ASD because they may lack mental health services that target and address parental stress. So
what I thought was interesting was the study seemed to suggest that what they believe to be causing that extra stress is the fact that girls are typically not diagnosed until later.
Yes.
And that there is a disparity in the amount of services for girls, both because of that, because the later you get diagnosed, the harder it is to get access to early intensive behavioral intervention, which we know is the most effective scenario, and that there just isn't as much tailored to girls.
No. So they're getting later diagnosis, and then they're having a harder time connecting to treatment services and identifying social support.
Yeah.
Social support is very key in this. You know, a lot of times I think boys can get by with being a little bit more quirky loners.
Right.
And for girls, that girl bonding is so important, I think, to feel like you belong to a group.
Yeah.
And a lot of these girls feel isolated.
In your social circle, I mean, I've watched this happen, and I'm sure you see this among the girls at Wyatt's school. I mean, there's movies. Girls are mean.
Yeah.
Girls are mean, and they tend to be much more judgmental of other girls, and that doesn't stop in junior high school.
No.
I mean, we see that as professionals.
Throughout life.
Yeah. Girls can be mean. And boys, it's not that boys can't be mean too, but a lot of times boys are oblivious to some of the social things. It's just not as much of a big deal to them.
They're not as hurt by it. They're not as sensitive.
Yeah, so I don't know about you, but whenever I meet a family and they've got girls on the spectrum, I always say to them, man, I really feel for you.
Yeah.
And they always go, why? And I say, because I know it's been hard enough for us, and there was stuff for us. And I know usually a family will say, well, you know, they had this program, but there were 15 boys in the class, and it was just going to be my daughter with 15 boys.
Right, and I'm sure that in a lot of either social groups or therapy groups or even at schools, you find that there's just so much fewer girls in the classrooms, in some of those special needs classrooms or whatever.
Makes it hard.
Yeah.
Especially hard. And this study also suggests too that you know, there's been some recent research leaning towards that when there are fewer girls on the spectrum, but that they tend to have a more profound effect.
Yeah.
That their issues on the spectrum tend to be more life consuming.
Right. So something needs to be done about that. So we have the study now. What are the answers?
Yeah.
Okay, last time we were here 2 weeks ago, you and I kind of went off on our feelings on the hotly discussed and in the news book by author Steve Silberman, Neurotribes, The Legacy of Autism and the Future of Neurodiversity.
And I will say this too, before we jump too far into this, many of you have written in and asked, are we going to have Steve Silberman on the show? And I'm totally open to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally open to it.
There has been, though, quite a bit of backlash. You know, Shannon and I expressed our our kind of outrage, really, I guess, that he seemed to say that he thinks autism is not an epidemic. He believes that it's because of better diagnosis, and he believes that these were the sort of scruffy nerds, the science geeks that have a strange gift that were not recognized before. And this particular article says that few things have been more surreal to the parent of a severely autistic child than the neurodiversity rhetoric that culminated in his book. And that no one is contesting the achievements of the scruffy geniuses he writes about or denying that they should be celebrated. The question is whether a comprehensive 480-page account of the legacy of autism should have devoted more space to those with low-functioning autism. According to the CDC, 40% of those with autism are intellectually disabled, and Autism Speaks reports that 30% are nonverbal, and over half of children with autism suffer from aggressive and or self-injurious behaviors. So there was a lot of backlash, and some of the comments I think are worth noting. Some of these posts, names aren't noted here, but I'd just like to read a few of these because I think they're very important. 9/11/15, got a call this afternoon that my son attacked his bus driver, ripped her shirt, broke her necklace, and I know scared the blank out of her. He is strapped in the bus for obvious safety reasons, but because he was really slapping his head hard, the bus driver stopped and went back to help to see if they could calm him down. I'm not sure if they unstrapped him or if he just got a hold of the driver because she got too close. My son shouldn't be hurting other people or himself. I'm just hoping he doesn't come down from his room until my husband gets home. 9/18/15. My heart is breaking because my beautiful daughter does so well for a while, and then she explodes and hurts everyone around her, including herself, destroys the house with her head. I had to come home from a council meeting tonight because she was out of control. She's asleep now, but who knows for how long. She's 17, strong beyond belief. She loves us. We love her, but she is destroying us. 9/4/15. I am physically and mentally exhausted. He is 21 and has been a poor sleeper for most of his life. Since about age 17, it has been up and down, but by then I was already the lightest sleeper in the world. His OCD is so bad at the moment that he literally sleeps for an hour at a time and then gets up looking for things to tidy or throw down the stairs. When he can't find anything, he strips himself and his bed. I had an ongoing migraine for a week. I want to scream. People wonder why I haven't found a residential placement for him, but it would be too cruel for him and me. I can't bear the thought of being upset or mistreated, as he has no way of letting us know. He loves nothing more than being with us, especially his dad. If my husband goes to put on his shoes, then B is up and putting his on in a second too. When he goes out with him, he will stand at the window and cry and hit himself when the father goes out. He gets in our own bed every night before he goes to his room. We try to get him to his bed, but he shakes his head. And if we insist, he will punch himself in the head, bite himself, or attack us. When do we get a break? Here's another post. I had to get E early again today. They had to have 3 teachers keep her control as she was spitting and sometimes ate paper and spit it at people, pinching, hitting, smacking other kids, running off, slapping one teacher. I only cried a little this time. Guess it gets easier to take each year. 8/25/15, a post. You know I love my little girl more than anything, but I hate autism so much. I hate nothing comes natural. It all has to be taught. I hate the meltdowns and lashing out. I hate the self-injury. I hate that even with meds, we still have nights and we are up all night. I hate the isolation, not having a normal life, just simple things we can't do. I hate that she can't speak or even understand me. I hate that she won't eat and lives off Pediasure. What I really want for her more than anything is happiness, basic happiness, to be able to take her places without all the screaming. Even if she is in a damn stroller, happy flapping away, I don't care, as long as she is happy. Let them stare all they want. I will always hate autism. I swear if she could just be happy, or happy a good bit of the time, maybe everything else wouldn't make me so sad. Sorry, I just have to vent. 8/14/15. Oh my God, my daughter is driving me crazy. She will not sit still. Been trying to break into the kitchen. I've had to replace the mayo 3 times this week. There's some other things here regarding some body function she has done. 3 more days. She won't let me turn on lights. We're sitting in the dark. Another post, our house has been spent shredding books we love. Tomorrow we will be spent asking for these books. 7/26/15, the OCD is seriously killing me. Today he wanted up on the dresser, down off the dresser, up on the dresser, then sitting on the edge of the bed with my feet crossed. Who can live this way forever? Even when he's not angry, he's hitting me when he's excited or wants a reaction. I get tired of trying to redirect to something more appropriate, and I'm just taking it now. I just go to my happy place and I take it. What I hate the most is not enjoying a single minute with my son. These posts go on and on and on, and I just think that Steve Silberman, I would love to have him on the show, but I'm really curious as to why he has not seemingly received a greater reality check from the average parent of a child with autism, I would even say, of even a child that's high functioning to moderate. I think he is definitely in his book focusing on a very small portion of the autism community. And this is not to say, I won't speak for you, that I don't consider the gifts that my son has. But if you put yourself for a minute in the shoes of these parents, they're not seeing gifts. They're seeing a lifetime of struggle. They're seeing a lifetime of isolation and despair. And when their kids get older, they are seeing that tunnel where the falling off the cliff, where they will no longer be there for these children. And where will their children be? So Steve Silberman, I'd like to know what you have to say to these parents.
Well, and I want to say this. I have not read Neurotribes yet, and I intend to at some point. I've not read it yet, and so I don't feel equipped to comment on the book.
I've read portions of it.
But I will say this. What it all brings home to me is that we are trying still to use one word to describe such a vast spectrum, and we keep offending everyone on this spectrum with our lack of ability to communicate what this spectrum is. I cannot wait for the day when we have phenotyped autism and we are no longer using the word autism. That when we start calling, and I for one feel the loss of, I understand why they did it in the DSM-5, but the loss of the term Asperger's to delineate, oh, this is not the kind of autism that my child has, right? Or, but I think that needs to happen times 350 so that people can then say, oh, well, I have Peterman excellence or whatever it is, that I'm somebody who has gifts and I can, count cards and I have the ability to see things from a 360-degree perspective, but somebody else can say, oh, my child doesn't have that. My child has autism 3, 4, 5. And then we all know, oh, that's a vastly different thing. We just keep trying to use one word. And in using that one word, we keep hurting each other. And that's the thing that makes me really sad, is that these parents have been hurt enough. I don't think they need to be hurt anymore by our society going, oh, your child should be able to be a savant. And you haven't gotten them to that.
It instills in them a sense of guilt. That they don't see the gift of some of these situations, and that they haven't done enough maybe to recover their children, which is sold from the time that your child is diagnosed.
And it creates other problems. We saw, and this is what our next article is about that goes hand in hand, we saw in the last couple of weeks, we covered on this show the circumstances of the boy whose neighbors were suing, saying that he was a public nuisance because he had autism. That the judge has now met with all the complainants and the family and said, you need to go solve this elsewhere. This is a ridiculous lawsuit. But in our current society, where we're having people say it's a gift and other people say, hey, wait a second, not for me, it's not.
I don't want you in this neighborhood.
It leaves room for these kinds of things. And I love this article that Bonnie Zampino wrote, My Son Has the Kind of Autism That No One Talks About. And she says, because we are not yet aware, and I believe this, for when people say, oh, autism awareness, do we really need that? Yeah. She says, because for every boy with autism who manages his high school basketball team, there are 20 boys with autism who smear feces. That's the reality, folks. And for every girl with autism who gets to be on the homecoming court, there are 30 girls with autism who pull out their hair and bite their arms until they bleed. And I think that we need to embrace all aspects of this. That doesn't mean that we don't celebrate that homecoming queen.
No, it doesn't. But we need to understand that for a lot of us parents, we don't have the type of child who falls on the spectrum where that homecoming queen does. And she goes on to say, we aren't aware. And no, we aren't. One of the plaintiffs in this case had said, we're not upset about him being autistic. We are concerned and upset about his violence toward our children. There is no way to be upset by this child's behaviors and not be upset about autism. She said, autism and behaviors go hand in hand. Why? The behaviors are communication. Individuals with autism often can't communicate in a way that typically functioning people can understand. So they do things to get their needs met, and often the things they do are scary and violent. we aren't aware, and we aren't aware of those. She goes on to write that her son, who is the same age as the child in the story, in the lawsuit, was extremely aggressive when he was younger, as was mine. He did all of the things that the child involved in the lawsuit did. Her son ran after other children on the playground just to push them down. He hit, he kicked, he bit, he pulled hair, and I never knew what was coming. For the longest time, I would flinch when he ran up to me. I didn't know whether he was going to hug me or hit me. Can you imagine, as a mom, what that's like to flinch when your child runs to you? We aren't aware. And going on, you know, and this I think is so important too, the isolation. You know, because I didn't know what my son was going to do to other children. We stopped going to the park. We stopped going to Mommy and Me class at the library. We stopped going to the grocery store. We started going to the grocery store at 6 a.m. when most people weren't around. He didn't go to daycare, but had a sitter at home. I isolated him in order to keep other people safe. Can you imagine what it's like to be a mom and not be able to take your child to the park or have your child attend birthday parties or play dates? We aren't aware. And because she had to isolate her son, she had to isolate herself too. She watched from her window as other moms in the neighborhood sat in camp chairs and chatted while the children played. She couldn't join them because her son couldn't be around the other kids. It's just, we aren't aware of all of these issues. And she says, once we become aware, lawsuits like this won't happen. Why? Because instead of putting blue lights on our front porches, we will go outside with our kids and we will help them play together. Typically functioning kids and kids with autism, we will get to know our neighbors and embrace the kids with behaviors and embrace the parents along with them. We do need to be more aware, and we can.
Absolutely. On that note, we need to take a break. Our very special guest, Ava Lund, is with us from Special Spirit Camp and Ranch. And we're going to be talking with her about the camp that they did this summer.
Right, and plans for an upcoming camp.
Absolutely.
And the work they do, the equine assisted therapy that they do that is so important. This is not just something for kids on the spectrum to just have a fun time. This has some very real therapeutic benefits that we're going to talk to you about.
Okay, so back after these messages.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman with Taka. My
Hi.
guest here.
I am Jennifer Lucero with Taka.
Taka Mom is here in the house. Jeff saw on a TV commercial, they were making calzones, and he looked at me and goes, Mom, please make me that. Wait a minute, yeah, calzone, you can't have calzone. He goes, well, you make me pizza. Why don't we call it a puzzone? So we're gonna do this ode to Jeff, puzzone. So I'm gonna have Jen come on in.
All right.
You're on charge.
Ready.
We're gonna add a little grapeseed oil, garlic, cut up chicken, finely cut up onion, and we're going to throw a little bit of basil. So we're going to just take about 5 minutes or so, saute up the chicken and all of the onions together. While Jen is slaving away at the stove, I'm going to make the pizza crust. A lot of gluten-free choices that you have out there for pizza crust. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the dry. Again, I'm using eggs. There are a lot of egg replacers on the Taka website. We have about a dozen different ways to replace eggs. So I'm going to go ahead and add my shortening. Calls for a little extra salt, which I'm going to put in here. And also add a little pepper. And we also have herbs de Provence that gives the crust a nice Italian flavor. Can't forget the apple cider vinegar, organic stuff ready to go. Yes, I have all my ingredients. We're ready to rock with this mixer. And don't be afraid of dough. Dough doesn't bite. So here's what we'll be working with to make the puzzone. I'm ready to go. Let's get this party started. So what we're going to do next is roll out the dough. like to be rolling in the dough, but we're going to roll out the dough instead. So let's go ahead and get started here with that. So again, you see me using the parchment paper all the time. Love this stuff. It's basically unbleached, ready to go. It's just going to make life a lot easier on your rolling pin. You don't need to coat it or anything, which is a lot easier. But I swear I should buy that by the gross ton. So the pizzones, this basically makes 2 big pizzones. I'm going to take half of the dough and roll it out. Half of the other dough will be for the other pizzone that we're going to make in just a little bit. So you want to do, you're not making a pie crust, you're kind of making a long oval shape. So we're going to try to make a shape where I'm going to basically roll this over with all the yummy fillings. And so any combination or variation thereof, this sauce, just real simple, is organic crushed tomatoes. I've added a little bit of salt and pepper and herbs de Provence in that as well, which I love. I like extra fresh basil. That's always yummy to have on your pizzone. And thank you, this turned out fantastic. So we're just basically building it the way that we want to eat it. Of course, my favorite rice-free, organic, dairy-free, soy-free cheese. It's going to pop off the sides.
Okay.
I'm not afraid of popping out the sides. So that's the beauty of the parchment paper. Once you're done, you just flip it over and peel it back. So I'm just taking a fork now and going around the edges. It looks so pretty.
It looks really nice.
So for 400 degrees, we're going to go for about 25 minutes. You want it golden brown. And because we cooked everything pretty much already, you're not worried about not having everything fully cooked. So look how cute those look.
Looks great.
Like those 4 happy people right there. This weighs a ton. So let's go to the magic oven. Pull out our finished product. And voila!
Good.
Oh my gosh,
looks
this
beautiful.
is so yummy. There's nothing better than a little Jeff Ackerman pizzone. And this is going to be nuclear hot, but we'll go ahead and cut it open so you can. Oh my gosh, this is going to taste so good
That
later
looks
on for
great.
your kids.
Yum.
Feedback, keep it coming. Thank you for helping, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. Come back to Autism Live. We'll keep doing allergy-friendly cooking classes. If you have any suggestions or things that you would like to see us make, bring it on. You can reach us at autismlive@gmail.com or Facebook.
Love the Facebook.
I know, too much for me. Facebook, so facebook.com/autismlive, or thousands of taco recipes ready to go. Basically go to Takanow, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome to Camp Discovery, a free-to-play suite of fun, interactive learning games for kids 2 and up, designed by experts in autism. Camp Discovery will open your early learner to a world of new skills, shapes, numbers, colors, locations, emotions, and more. Let's get started.
Please choose a level.
Objects. First, Camp Discovery's Intelligent Preference Assessment determines your child's preferred reward for choosing correctly. Okay, got it. Let's play. Camp Discovery creates a motivating learning environment for your child by minimizing incorrect responses and maximizing successful ones.
Find the shoes.
Respond correctly and your child is rewarded with their favorite animations.
You did it.
Respond incorrectly and our unique prompting system guides your child to the correct answer by making it the largest choice.
That's not it. Try again. Way to go.
Continue to answer correctly and the size gradually reduces until the child makes the correct choice independently.
You win.
Success! Rewards motivate learning. Complete a round and your child is rewarded with a fun mini-game. Track your child's progress with easy-to-read graphs. Multiple settings options allow you to customize Camp Discovery to your child's unique needs. All this in one single app, the Camp Discovery app, available for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon Store.
And we are back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Shannon's taking a little break. She's got a bad cold and was having coughing attacks. Ava Lund, it is so nice to have you here from Special Spirit, Inc.
It's great to be here.
You are a good friend of mine. I'm very connected with Special Spirit, being on the board, and also My son Wyatt rides there, and our horses,
yes, don't
Big
forget.
Moon and Jasper and Mini Moon, are there doing equine-assisted therapy with the kids. First and foremost, Ava, tell us what Special Spirit Inc. is.
Well, Special Spirit is an equine therapy center. We used horses for all kinds of therapy because they are so healing. They are very connected to us humans. They are really great with kids on the autism and special needs kids because they come with no agenda, and horses like that. So they are much calmer around these kids, and that's why they are so great for therapy. But apart from doing the therapeutic riding, we also do equine-assisted learning and psychotherapy, which is on the ground when we use the horses and the arena as a metaphor for life. And we work with the group homes with foster kids, sober living, and also started with the veterans. And many in these groups are on the autism spectrum as well.
Okay, and when you work with the horses in the arena and on the ground, what kinds of things do you do?
Well,
with them?
we can come up with, for one of our camps, we actually did an equine-assisted learning activity when we asked the kids to build the day, or the first day of school.
Okay.
You know, because it was in the end of August and they were going to start school again.
Right.
And they figured out, okay, there is an entrance, so they build an entrance with all the fences and the balls and stuff that there was in the arena. And then we asked them to find a way to connect and become one student. And we had all these balls, so they put the ball in between them and they become like a little centipede representing one student. And then they had to take the horses to school.
Okay.
And what happened? It was hard to get them in the classroom because psychologically they were rather having fun on the recess and in the cafeteria.
Right.
And then we can process things like that. We talk about it and stuff like that, you know.
Okay.
So they become metaphors.
Okay. And you also do crafts at the camp. You have.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
think we have a picture, Kelby. Do we have a picture of the kids doing pottery? I think we have Wyatt doing
Well,
some
I was
pottery.
so fortunate.
And there we go. Look.
Yes,
There's
we
Wyatt
got
painting a horse and some of the other kids. Yeah.
I got kilns and glazes donated, so we have sort of like a Color Me Mine studio for the kids.
Right.
And it's so, well, being creative, you know how good that is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
good for all of us, actually.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you incorporate that into the program. And where are you located?
In Shadow Hills, which is a little area of Sunland, right north of Burbank.
Sunland, north of Burbank, California.
Airport, Burbank
Okay.
Airport, yeah.
Okay, but you have kids that come all around
Yes.
the greater LA
Yes.
area. I know we drive.
Well, we're very close to Hollywood, Glendale, Pasadena,
Right.
Burbank, and North Hollywood, even Chatsworth and all those areas. So we're very local, you know, and which is very lucky to have a horse property so close to downtown. No
Yes, it
traffic,
is.
22 minutes to downtown.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Now you have done, you have an ongoing program
Totally, yes.
that kids can come and take lessons. And how can they connect with you if they're interested in doing the lessons? If somebody listening has a child with autism and they're interested in doing lessons,
They contact us and we set up an evaluation. Our evaluations are free.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure that the child is going to take to the horses and that we have the appropriate horses and the appropriate tack for the children too. And also it's with a lot of autistic kids change. First time they come, they might be very sort of apprehensive about being around the horses, and
Right.
second time they come, it's sort of a little bit more it's a habit forming thing.
Right.
And so some kids, they can take 15 minutes to get them on a horse, and then third and fourth time they come running in, getting on the horse before we're even ready, you know.
Right.
So,
they can call you. Let's give them some information. The phone number is 323-428-5005. They can email you at info@specialspirit.org, and they can find you on the web at specialspirit.org. So that's very simple. Once again, 323-428-5005. Email info@specialspirit.org, and on the web at specialspirit.org.
Yep.
Now, I want to announce too that you are going to be doing the camp over the holidays.
Yes.
And Act Today will give grants to families for the camp. So they should go to your website, and what we'll do is you'll refer them to our website to fill out the grant application.
We're in the process of putting all that up on the website.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you go right now and it's not up there, it will be soon.
Yes.
And are the camps going to have full and half day?
Yep. And one of the things too with our camps, we're all inclusive.
Right.
Because when it comes really down to it, we are all special. And, you know, it's like we had camps this summer with about 15 kids, and half was on the autism Asperger spectrum and the other half was typical. And you could not tell who was who.
Right.
Because kids are kids, and that's what we like to promote.
Right.
And so it's sort of like a very organic, normal environment for all. And there was both people with parents with special needs kids and parents with the typical kids that was a little bit sort of apprehensive about it. Kids sorted it out themselves.
Yeah, and
we didn't have to do anything.
But
you were there with the
I was there,
yeah.
yes. And what I find is that some of the neurotypical kids, particularly the girls, really like to take care of. They're very nurturing.
Right.
And they oftentimes will latch onto one of the kids on the spectrum to really help them. And they make friends. Wyatt made friends with another boy at the camp. And after a while, I think there's a real sense of pride about you have them working with the horses, with grooming the horses and the care of the horses, which is as important as the riding itself. Right?
And one of the things that the kids came up with all by themselves, we had a lemon tree. And that was not part of our camp. But all the kids decided to pick lemons and make lemonade because it was warm. So it became another thing that they had to do. And it's also scientific because they had to measure. And then they had to get the ice cubes and the sugar and the water. And they were very proud of it. And they even, when the parents came in the afternoon, they charged their parents for the lemonade.
That's great.
And then they split up all the dollars they got in between the whole group of campers. And I thought that was very entrepreneurial.
Very entrepreneurial.
Yes.
Now, you have a personal connection with autism because otherwise, why, as a horsewoman, ranch owner, did you get so involved in this? Tell us about that.
Jake, a really good friend of mine, Paul, him and my late husband were best of friends and worked together. And Paul's son, who is my godson, ended up being autistic. And today he's 22 and he's the most inspirational person that I have in my life. He has a heart of gold. He cannot lie. And he was the reason why we started this, because he loved the horses. And then Paul is now very involved. We want to sort of down the line start a wood shop that Paul he's a contractor, and he wants to teach autistic kids, have them like an internship, teach them a little bit about woodworking.
Okay.
And if they do good, he could actually hire them in his construction company.
And aren't you talking about opening up a tack store as well?
And the
to
tack
sell
store, yes.
Saddles and various things.
Yes, and we would like them to run it with supervision, of course. And learn how to run a store, you know.
Right.
Here's $20, you need $5 back, and, you know, let them handle it.
Right, okay.
They are so, if we just give them a chance, they are so much more capable than just being in a group home. And I think we really need to work on finding them situations where they can actually have a job.
Exactly.
I have some of the kids from another organization coming. They love cleaning the boots, polishing boots. They should work in a shoe shop.
Right.
You know, there's so many things that these kids can do.
Well, it's obviously something that is crucial right now because we have so many parents complaining about their children when they age out of high school and possibly they're not able to have a college placement. They're sitting at home. And this is criminal.
Yes, it is. I agree.
We have to find jobs for our young people on the spectrum, our young adults, and nurture them and find them living places where they can work and feel a part of the community.
I'm having a group coming on Saturday. They're going to come and do a job interview with me and find out what it takes to run a barn and they are being taught through Joanne Lara.
Through Joanne Lara, yes, who was a friend of the show.
And
has
she's
been on many
gonna.
times.
There are 4 kids that are gonna come and ask questions about how to get a job in the horse industry.
Great.
So
That's
we're going to
great.
sort of talk to them, show them around, and teach them basics.
Okay, so this is all great what you're doing at the ranch. Now, we had an exciting weekend because you had some of us volunteer, and Special Spirits was one of the, they were recognized as one of the charities for the LA Masters Horse Show.
Which is Longines, you know, the big...
Longines, the big watchmaker. And these were the creme de la creme of horses around the world.
Show jumping, I call it.
Show jumping, Oscar caliber show jumping. Kelby, I think I had one picture of a jumper going over a jump. You could see the size. I don't know if you can find it there, but it is just quite astounding. The court. Look at that. Would you look at the size of those jumps, right?
And you know, I had one of my kids went to this, who is on the spectrum. He now wants to start jumping.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
Scares me a little bit, but you know, we're going to make it work.
You are now seeking next year to be a part of what they call the Pro-Am show jumping.
The charity show.
The charity show. And there's some interest from some wonderful riders.
Well, through your connection.
Well, some Richard Spooner and Hannah from Sweden. I think we have a picture of you and Hannah, which Huck Kelby will find and put up.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. There's you and Hannah.
She took third.
She took third, which is amazing. So a fellow Swede. And next year, the goal is to get a big sponsor and to have 2 professional riders going in and competing and winning money for Special Spirits. So anybody listening out there that would like to be a sponsor, we're going to be going out and seeking them, right?
Absolutely, yes. We might even get 2 sponsors, one for Act Today as well.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, well, you're doing such great work. The ranch is such a haven for Wyatt and for me. And thank you so much for being on the show, Ava.
Well, and I'd like to welcome all of your listeners and viewers to come out and visit.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to start riding or anything, I think it's very healing to be around the
animals.
Turkeys,
you have
chickens.
peacocks, she has chickens, turkeys, mini dogs that my son adores. And I think, I'm wondering if we're bringing Shannon back on to say goodbye. Okay, so we're just going to keep you here for a minute then.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got more animals out at that barn.
Sometimes there's more animals than people, yes.
Yeah, Wyatt, and always little chicks that are being born. Wyatt's always like, "Can I go pick up the chicks?" And I'm like, "Well, if you can chase them down."
Here's another thing. We could take all the eggs and teach them how to make quiche.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? Or sell the eggs.
Sell the eggs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And another thing I love about the ranch is you have it decorated with so many beautiful things. You had an artist that did a whole Dr. Seuss theme.
Yeah.
And
we wanted that, you know, the fun spirit of the barn, the childlike spirit to bring that out.
So those visuals are all over the barn, and they're so encouraging. And then your godson built a special totem.
Yes. That totem pole is what we call the emotional intelligence. It is respect, responsibility, relationship skills, boundaries, empathy, choices, and consequences. And every camp, we start with the totem pole, going through all the skills we're going to use. And then at the end of the day, we usually go through and see if we lacked or missed some of them that we have to take care of the following day.
So they're really getting a lot of social learning and, you know, not just the therapeutic riding. It's a lot of the social skills.
Absolutely. And horses are very social animals too, and they bring that out in us, I think.
Well, I encourage you all to go visit Special Spirit. Call Ava at 323-428-5005, info@specialspirit.org. Thank you, my friend, for coming.
Thank you.
We had such a great time.
Yes.
And as Shannon would say, give your kiddos a hug from me, and I say give yourselves a hug from me.
I agree.